This is the Uber philosopher. We're going out on an Uber Eats run. It's May 30th, 2022. This video is going to be about Izaak Walton's book, The Complete Angler. Izaak Walton, he was born August 9th, 1595. He wrote the book in about 1653. And then he died December 15th, 1684. He was 90 years old when he died. So The Complete Angler is probably one of the first how-to fishing books ever written. And it's written in a little bit of Old English. You have to read it slow, and you have to do some deduction to try to figure out what exactly he's talking about. But it can be done, and it's a little bit like reading Shakespeare. Some explanation is needed, but otherwise you could get through it and understand what's going on. So we're going to drive around delivering food today. I'll keep you abreast of that, and in the meantime, I'm occasionally going to be cutting short videos taken in my apartment showing how to tie one of Izaak Walton's flies. It's called the popper, and it's used to catch primarily bluegill and bass. So let's turn on the app, see if there's anybody that wants to eat this morning, and I'll head to my favorite spot in the center of town, and we'll take it from there. So, see you in a bit. So I looked up on Wikipedia when Izaak Walton was, born and died and when he wrote the book, but in reading the book in the prologue, the person that wrote the prologue didn't know when Izaak Walton was born. All that he knew was the day that he was baptized. And I just find that interesting that probably the Catholic Church keeps very complete records of anything that happened within the church, and I'm sure down in Rome somewhere in the catacombs they have a record of Izaak Walton's birth, or Izaak Walton's day of communion. But the thing is, for birth, back in the day, women weren't going to the hospital. They were having their babies at home, and probably, no record of it. So the first record that an actual human being was brought into this world were his baptism records, and those were kept meticulously by the church. Well, we're at our Starbucks in the middle of town. Still waiting for a ride to come in. Nothing's happened yet with Uber Eats. It usually takes a little while. It's still early. It's only 5 after 6. So I'll talk about The Complete Angler a little bit by Izaak Walton. So when I was a young boy, probably about 10 or 11 years old, I was in the Boy Scouts. And, the Boy Scouts has merit badges. You can get a merit badge for camping, tying knots, orienteering with a compass, fire starting, you name it. They've got, 50 merit badges. But I was only interested in one, and that was the fishing merit badge. And so in order for me to get that merit badge, I had to do a few things. I had to catch 5 different types of fish, and I had to eat each one that I caught, and I had to read The Complete Angler, and then some literature from the Boy Scouts too, like don't take a boat out on the water during a thunderstorm, things like that. So having to read The Complete Angler, I did, and from that point forward, I was no longer going out fishing. I was going to go, instead, I was going to go out angling. So you're not in The Complete Fisherman, you're not a fisherman, you're an angler, or you're a piscator, something like that. Yeah, so that started me with the whole fly fishing bit. I started fly fishing early on, very young, and I didn't have too much luck at first. Didn't really know where to fish, how to fish, and I didn't really have anybody teaching me how to do it too. My father fished, but he liked to go to Lake Erie and catch perch with minnows. That was his thing. That's all he did. And as far as my uncles, nobody really fished, and pretty much it was just me and my brother trying to figure things out as we went along. And we did some pretty stupid things trying to reason where the fish were, chasing bubbles all over a lake thinking those were the fish. So I'm going to wait here a little bit while longer. The first order should be coming in pretty soon. And again, I'm going to occasionally cut out a video of my apartment showing how to make a popper. One of the best bass lures that you could have, and it's even more satisfying to catch a bass on something that you made yourself. Far more satisfying. So let's wait for an order to come in, and then we'll go get it. Here is an image of a completed Izaak Walton Popper. To make the popper head, you will need some balsa doweling. The doweling on the right is 1/4 inch, and that's a good size for panfish. The doweling on the left is 3/8 of an inch, and that's a good size for largemouth bass. In addition, you're going to need some scissors and a bobbin. You don't want to buy the least expensive bobbin you could find. The cheap ones cost around $7, and they'll just give you a headache. Your string will break every time you try to tighten it. Find some that cost around $20 with a fluted end or with a ceramic tip. They make some high-end bobbins that cost $60 or $70. To me, they look over-engineered and probably not worth the money. Get the fluted or ceramic tip bobbin. Here are 2 hook sizes. The foreground hook is a size 2 popper hook. It has ridges in the center of the shank. The finished popper behind it has a size 6 hook, and that's the size for the 1/4 inch balsa wood for your panfish. You will need a coping saw to cut the balsa wood. You will need some hackle pliers. Of course, you will need some scissors. We will be painting the popper head with some testers, yellow. To glue the head to the hook, we will be using 2-part 5-minute epoxy. We will be using the Dremel hand tool to shape the popper head. A 1/4 inch wide all-purpose paintbrush. You can use either a Sharpie or a black paint pen to make the eye of the popper. I started working on this popper last night. I cut off a piece of balsa wood, about that big, and started shaping it with my emery board. Just get that rounded back. And then I used that Dremel bit to hollow out that popper center. And then the coping saw I used to saw down a little bit in order to be able to place the hook inside. I'm going to glue the hook inside now. I've got my glue mixed, equal parts resin and an activator, and I first put a little bit of glue inside the cut I made with the coping saw. And it's 5-minute glue, but it still takes about 24 hours to really set up. So I got a little glue there, and then turn it around, put that crease, maybe forward a little bit. And then that's the start of it, and then I finish gluing it. Now when you're fishing this popper, you don't want to tighten your line by pulling on the popper head, because this glue, while it's strong, is no match for the force that you apply when you're tightening, especially monofilament or a leader, fly fishing leader. So next, we're going to paint the popper. I've got some fluorescent yellow paint. To me, it seems kind of thin in the bottle. I don't know what happened. We'll see what it looks like on the popper. I'm just using a normal 1/4-inch brush. I should have some paper down below me or something to catch the paint in case it drips, but I'm living on the edge. So I think it's going to take 2 coats, and so we'll let this coat dry for about 4 hours and then put on another coat and let it dry 24 hours. Well, overnight I put on another coat of paint, let it dry for 24 hours, and then I used a paint pen to draw in the eye. I think the eye is a very important element of the popper. So also I tied on some feathers, nothing fancy, just something to give it a little bit more body. Maybe the bass will mistake it for a dragonfly or a frog or a tadpole or whatever. It really doesn't matter. There was one time I was fishing and I just used a lead jig with a lead head, not painted or anything. And I had a bag from a grocery store, colorful bag, and I just cut a strip of it and I tied it to the jig hook, let it down, started jigging, and I caught a fish. And I think the most important part about fishing is making something look as if it's alive. But we're going to continue on the popper, and what I'm going to do now is drill the hole through the popper and insert the rubber legs. Now, the drill bits I got from Amazon, they're very small. Probably jewelers or watchmakers use them. But you could get them on Amazon. They were pretty cheap, and it's the only way you're going to make a hole. I tried using a pin to push through, but I just couldn't get enough force to do it. So here we go. So that's pretty good. And then I'm going to take a little break here, get some more supplies, and I will be right back. Here is the rubber we'll use for the rubber legs. I just peel off a little bit. Cut it. This already has another shorter length of rubber leg on it. I'm going to peel that off. And what you do is you have where did I put it? Here it is, practically invisible. This is called a bobbin threader. You can see it's got a very fine point to it, and you use it to what it's called, use it to thread your popper or bobbin, and we're going to force it through the hole, get it on the other side. There we go, get it on the other side, and then just put the rubber through the bobbin, and then pull it through. There we go. So you pull it through, you want to make sure you got enough to make your leg. That'll do it. Cut it off here, and then cut off the other side. And you have your legs. So, I'm going to finish this up. That's a completed popper. Nothing else needs to be done, except maybe I've got a little paint in the eye. I need to clear that out. But next I'll explain to you how to fish it. And you want to fish it when the sun is about 15 degrees above the horizon. So 15 degrees is roughly, you stick your fist out at arm's length and put it between the earth and the sun. And if the sun is just touching the top of your fist, that's 15 degrees. And that's when you should start fishing. So you cast it out, lay it out best as you can with a good 6-foot long leader. And I'll tell you exactly how to retrieve it at the end of this video. Well, as promised, I told you I would show you how to fish the Izaak Walton Popper at the end of the video, and so here we are. So first off, you want to pick a day where there's no wind, where the lake is calm, not even a ripple. Early in the morning and late in the evening. I think I mentioned this before. You don't want to start fishing the popper until the sun is 15 degrees above the horizon. And 15 degrees is 1 fist length. You put it one side on the earth, the other side to the sun, and when the sun touches the top of your fist, that's 15 degrees. That's when you start fishing a popper. Same thing in the morning, just reversed. Now the secret is, and Izaak Walton found this out 600 years ago, is that you use a long leader, a 6-foot leader. For the bass popper, you need, I use 11 weight rod and line, but I think you get by with 8 weight. And you start casting it out, and you lay it down in your favorite spot where you think there is some bass. And the trick is, you just let it set there for about 8 seconds. You let the ripples flow away, and after that 8 seconds, you just give it a small twitch. Now I tell you, I have done this, I've casted it out, I've landed the popper, and I have seen fish swim up to the popper, stay about 8 inches away. I could see their fin out of the water, and they're staring at it for that 8 seconds. And as soon as I gave it that light twitch, they were just on it. Now, your first instinct when you see that rise for the popper is to set the hook. You don't want to do that. You want to wait a couple of seconds before you set the hook and then bring it in. And that's about it. I've tried, different retrievals, bringing the popper back, seeing if I could catch a fish, bringing the popper back. It hardly ever works. I'd say it never works. 99.99% of the time, you're going to catch a fish on that first twitch after you wait that 8 seconds. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a fun time making it, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.